We do, absolutely. And something I think that you have to consider has been going on since basically 2003, since the invasion of Iraq. And when we talk about Qasem Soleimani, we're talking about someone who was at the forefront, really pushing the conflict that we saw there between 2003 2011, the surge, of course, that took the lives of so many U.S. soldiers via IED, via ambush, by multiple attacks. And I think it's interesting to note, as you say, that Iraq has continued to be a battleground, not a Cold War, but in fact a hot war. A proxy, of course, for the continuing Iran versus American narrative, frankly. And, when I speak to Iraqi leaders in the past, they've told me again and again, they're really essentially between a rock and a hard place because, there's such a huge presence of Iran in the country. Businessmen in the country, in Iraq, are consistently doing business with their Iranian counterparts because they can't get Western backers because of the high security risks and because of sanctions and all these other issues. So Iran is a part of a daily life in Iraq. And I think it's something that the U.S. administration, particularly under Donald Trump, and especially when I speak to people like Mike Pompeo or Brian Hook, the U.S. Special Representative on Iran, it's not necessarily something that they're willing to accept in any way, that Iran is a continuing presence inside that country. But of course, that's what we see on a day-to-day level. And anyone who's spent time in Iraq, worked in Iraq, can tell you that right off the bat, that they aren't going anywhere. So in terms of where we are today in Iraq, I mean, this is a country that's been under serious protests. They've had violent protests, as you know, for the last several months. It hasn't reached in any real difficult way to Basra, to the south of the country where those oil installations are, but that doesn't mean that it couldn't. And of course, there's also the issue, of course, right now of what a retaliatory action by Iran will actually look like, because we're not talking about if it's going to happen. We're talking about when and how. If they're going to use their proxies via Hezbollah, for example, in South America, in Lebanon, Syria, Yemen, or if they're going to reach further afield, if they're going to be more targeted in Europe or elsewhere. And then, of course, the fact of the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, at the end of the day, the real worry, isn't it, is that something could happen in that part of the world. And then that really drives this into a more global problem than a U.S. problem. So I think that you have to take a step back, think about the political calculus here, think about what we've seen from President Trump in the past. He's willing to do these retaliatory measures. He's willing to say, there's a red line. To cross that line would be to kill an American. We've seen a U.S. contractor killed. We've seen U.S. soldiers injured from these attacks earlier in the week. We've seen the U.S. embassy essentially, bombarded or attacked by these pro-Iranian militias. And the question, of course, is going to be going forward, when Iran retaliates here, as we know that they will, what they're going to hit and what the U.S. response will then have to be.
Hi, I'm Joanna Bersecci, and thank you for watching. You can check out more of our videos by clicking on the boxes on the screen. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more from CNBC International. Thank you for watching.